no petty laws or useless officials. Some people might know where that comes from. And I think that that's a brilliant idea, because if we are a country that does have our First Amendment and everyone is independent and a free thinker, um, we don't need too many checks and balances, right? Like a true anarchy, people are running themselves. So you want to get as close to anarchy as you can. But obviously you need a little bit of control so that people aren't running around murdering each other and all that.
See, now that's interesting because I listened to our first episode probably 5 different times,
Yeah.
and we started off talking about like your idea of what government is, just the overall concept. Yeah. And you mentioned something about anarchy in that piece because I asked you, what does it mean to be an independent? And you kind of talked about how you've always been an independent, more or less. But you have to expand on that for people because that scares a lot of people when they hear the term anarchy. Right. How do we debunk what anarchy means to you versus what people could take it as meaning in a negative sense?
Well, right. And a lot of it comes from, I have an affinity for the psychology of martial arts and things like that. The anarchy and martial law are kind of like a two-sided coin in my view, my perception. And yeah, that like they use, like, the government that's established now uses anarchy and martial law kind of as a scary concept, right? Because in anarchy and martial law, you do have complete control over yourself, which leaves the avenue open for evil to be done, right? So it comes down to just, in order to live close to anarchy or martial law in peace, it comes down to individual people just kind of learning how to take control of their lives better and taking advantage of that First Amendment right that is special to the United States.
Are you equating anarchy with martial law? Like you have to elaborate on that some. So because martial law to me means something completely different from what I hear as anarchy. So as someone that has anarchist leanings themselves.
So anarchy, right, is just no government, self-governs. Well, martial law is basically the same thing. It's the law of war, the law of survival. So that's why I call it a two-sided coin. One hand washes the other. I think anarchy and martial law kind of go together.
Really? Mm-hmm. Really? They seem like polar opposites, though.
That's why it's a two-sided coin. One hand washes the other, right? Yin yang kind of idea.
I get you, but do you think that that's a little bit too simplistic? Because there's a lot in between those two, right? When you agree?
Yeah. And there is a higher level of thinking, I think, maybe I've been exposed to with it, but it's just when people don't have that blanket, the security blanket, something like telling them what to do or what is the right way, as opposed to being able to lead themselves, it's scary, and it can be manipulated, for good or evil.
I see that point. I definitely I get that sense. It doesn't really matter. It kind of goes into the whole debate with authoritarianism. What type of authoritarianism do you prefer? I don't prefer either one. So even though I'm a leftist, I don't want any sort of authoritarianism. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what spectrum you're on.
In anarchy and martial law, there is ultimately you're your own authority. If you get to the bare bones of either concept, anarchy or martial law, you are your own authority. In martial law, if someone attacks you, you have the right to defend yourself, right? So you are the authority. You decide whether you live or die based on whether you can defend yourself.
That's martial law to me sounds like a scary concept. Martial law to me sounds like it almost get the picture that the military would be in control of everything. So in that case, how would you be?
Okay, so here's the thing about martial law. If the world were at martial law, which I mean technically the whole universe is at martial law, the safest place for an individual to be would be a military, because that's where all the supply lines are. and that's where people are going to do what they need to do to survive, which is kind of a you could say that's a morbid concept or maybe a cynical concept, but that's how war is. But we know there's societies, before predating the Western societies now, where they went thousands of years without war.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they know these things, these yogic laws, these martial laws, the anarchy laws, uh, concepts of self-preservation, and just it's just a higher level of thinking in the first place. Um,
Well, I don't know about the higher. I don't know exactly.
well, maybe.
I don't know about the higher level of thinking. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to clear up for my
Yeah,
audience that's probably way more skeptical of these things than we are. Let's just say we have more of a relationship to these things or knowledge of these things. This is
right.
also
Like I'm
an
not
attempt
I'm
to.
not saying, yeah, and I'm not saying I'm going to declare martial law or declare anarchy, right? But the idea is, if you live in a free and open society, and you have the First Amendment, where people are, free to practice their own religion, free to kind of say what they want to say, um, that's what you're trying to get as close to as you can without bloodshed. And then that comes on the minds of the people, and how we treat each other and our sense of community and society.
Okay. Is this something, because you're telling me before we started, like you showed me the Art of War.
Yeah.
You had that book with you right now. Is this within the concept, within the Sun Tzu concept? Is that what you're getting at?
um Not necessarily. um
Okay.
well, some of the stuff I was going to pull out had a little more to do with economy, but I think that Art of War is a great that's a great it's a great strategy book. It's a great book to read. uh Very peaceful.
Yeah, I'm just trying to clear that up, and I'll keep
Yeah,
an open mind because I'm clearly not feeling what you're saying about martial law, and that I'm just trying to
right.
clear. I'm just trying to clarify
And
that because
yeah,
uh
no, I'm
because
just
martial law to
I'm
me
just
is almost like the is you're basically at the mercy of that authority, and you're right. They
you're
would,
at
in
the
the case
mercy
the
you're at the
military would
mercy of
have
the
the tools.
yeah, you're at the mercy of the authority that has, because there is no authority. You're at the mercy of authority, but at the same time, you have no obligation. You can keep running from it. I'm not just, I'm just trying to explain martial law a little bit deeper,
I
in a
got you.
deeper sense, so that you aren't as afraid of it, because there are concepts of it that you kind of have to apply to life and survival.
Okay.
I,
Okay.
you know,
I have to
yeah,
search more into that. Like I will, and I try to test myself. And I tell my audience to do the same. I encourage people to test your own views like you have to. That's how you get to the point where you are now. I wouldn't be at this point right now. And I know probably for yourself, you wouldn't be at the point you are right now in your thought processes if you didn't challenge previously held thoughts.
right,
So that's kind of the whole point. Even if it's something that
yeah,
seems like very different than what you're confronted with normally.
right. Yeah, and but like what you're saying and what you're afraid of is totally valid, because if the government were to declare martial law, it would be military rule, and um it would and could be very scary. But it's just that's that's more of a around the peace pipe debate, because it gets really cynical and deep, and talk about some kind of gross concepts of humanity. So